Hello, my dear Franken friends, and welcome to Spookyou, your one-stop shop for all things ghastly and ghoulish. I'm your host, Barnabas Vixen. How horrible of you to join us. Curl up, invite your friends, and by all means, make sure those lights are out. That way it's harder to tell what may or may not be lurking around you. There's nothing like a good mystery, am I right? Tonight will feature a singular tale of devilish design curated by those wicked weavers of woe. And without further ado, allow me to pass the reins on over to our vivacious voiceover virtuoso Trey Falco for tonight's sinister story. Please keep all limbs and side covers at all times. We wouldn't want anything to go missing now, would we?
This is my second year working at a boys' summer camp in the mountains. I won't disclose what camp it is for the privacy of campers and staff, and the names I give for people won't be their actual names. The camp is nestled in an absolutely beautiful bowl in the top of some mountains, giving it some natural privacy and the feeling of isolation. That feeling is great when you're trying to give hundreds of kids a fun, transformative summer, but not so much when strange things start happening. Now, I'm pretty sure anyone who's ever worked at a summer camp has heard scary stories passed down by the older campers meant to freak out the younger kids, and my camp is no different. The beaver sharks in the lake that attack children, the skinwalkers that supposedly roam the area, how a few of the overnight camping sites are haunted. Now, I've never really believed in much of it. In fact, last summer went by without me experiencing anything out of the ordinary. This summer has been a bit different. I'll start by giving some of the assorted stories I've heard from other people over the course of my time here. Once I have some more time, I'll spend some time writing up a detailed account of what's happened to me personally this summer. I don't mean to be clickbaity, it's just that my free time here is limited, to say the least, and I want to give the tale proper treatment. I'll attach a very rough drawing of the campus to give you all a better idea of where certain things are taking place. Let me know if that isn't legible. I'm not really sure how the quality will turn out with how I shared it. Number 1. A few of the paddling staff had snuck out late one night to mess around in the lower lake. They claim to have seen a massive snake, 15 feet or so, long and thick like nothing we have around here, resting on the bank opposite from the paddling dock, before it quickly swam down into the depths when they approached it. It's pretty deep for a man-made lake, and honestly, I hadn't really heard of any other sightings. The sight of a normal water snake swimming through the upper lake when I was having fun at the swim docks the other day actually reminded me of this story. Number 2. Two of my friends were stargazing up at the turf field, relatively common thing to do to relax after the kids were in bed. They claim that they saw someone holding a flashlight walk up from the climbing wall area, cross the turf field, and then pause, shining the light directly at them when it got in between the gym and the grass field. They called out to it a few times because, honestly, chances are it was someone they knew. But the person didn't respond, and after about 30 seconds of the light not moving, it pointed it down at its feet and removed its hiking boots before cutting the light and disappearing, leaving them behind. Once my friends were recovered enough from the fright to be curious, they pointed one of their own lights in the direction of the person had been standing. No boots. No nothing. Who are you? You're not allowed to... Barnabas? Something. It's in the booth. Oh God, Barnabas. Barnabas, help me. Barnabas, please, it's coming closer. Barnabas!
So sorry you had to hear that, dear listener. While our cleaning crew tackles the remains of that recording booth and our engineers try to resolve any lingering technical issues, let me tell you about one of our fine sponsors, Huxley's Cloning Facility. Let me ask you, listener, are there times in which you wish you had an extra set of hands that you could be in two places at once? Well, with a simple and somewhat painful process of DNA extraction, that wish could finally come true. Huxley sports state-of-the-art cloning facilities that are just outside of FDA-approved standards. What does this mean for you? Better, faster, more compliant super clones. Why go to those other guys when you could come by Huxley's? I mean, we're here right now, brewing up another fine narrator. Gestation period is only 2 hours. Hurry and get your clone today before it's too late. Oh, what? Oh, cut that part out. Oh, sorry. Huxley's, because our you is better in every way. Now that our announcer is back in the booth and has finally achieved a normal sense of motor control, back to your story.
Number 3. One of the tribal leaders, there are 4 tribes in the camp, each with about 80 kids or so, was out at the ball field grabbing something from the lacrosse hut in the far corner. Side note, I don't know if this is common camp practice, but we call the storage buildings for every activity huts. I like it. Anyway, he remembers thinking it was an oddly dark night with the only sound accompanying him being the mind-numbing drone of the cicadas. As he was facing the hut to lock it up, he was overcome with the hair-raising feeling of being watched. He finished and hurried across the field, and when he looked back, he saw a pair of red eyes in the woods just beyond the hut. As he was practically jogging across the field, he heard what sounded like something sprinting behind him. He never looked back a second time to see if anything was actually following him. Number 4. This camp holds father-son weekends on the front and back ends of the normal summer sessions. I've never actually worked any of these, but apparently they're really lax compared to the normal sessions, and honestly, they sound like a lot of fun. Everyone was gathered at morning watch for the daily pre-breakfast announcements, when one dad looked across the lake and saw 2 people standing there in broad daylight, dressed in traditional Native American garb. He thought nothing of it, figuring they were part of the camp's well-known but poorly named Indian lore program. When he looked back a few minutes later, they were gone. Nobody else of the 200 or so people gathered there saw them. The grown man swore he saw what he claimed. One of the camp directors, who's known for being very serious, was supposedly pretty shaken up by his account. Number 5. A disembodied, slightly decayed foot was found in the swim lanes in the upper lake one morning. Thankfully, it was discovered by a counselor who had planned on swimming for some exercise before the campers woke up, and the leadership staff rightfully freaked out about it. Under the guise of an EAP practice, that's an emergency action plan, they gathered everyone in the dining hall and made sure all campers and staff members were accounted for. None were missing any limbs. The directors kept this very hush-hush. Number 6. A kid woke their counselor up one morning and said that he'd had a nightmare about a shadowy figure watching him in his bunk through one of the screen windows of their cabin. The kid, who was 7 years old, told his counselor with a straight face he'd never be able to sleep again. That occurred on the 4th night of our 2-week session, and the camper would wake up every subsequent night screaming about the same nightmare, and then would be unable to fall back asleep. One of the counselors tried to stay up one night, more to give the kids some comfort than to actually find anything. Although he fell asleep around 5 in the morning, he did hear heavy rustling of the leaves right outside his cabin around 3. That was the only night the kids slept peacefully. And finally, number 7. The cabins of the oldest kids back up to one edge of the camp, and it's the bit that has the most dense section of woods behind it. The very backmost... Is that a proper term? Whatever. The very backmost cabin, reserved for the counselors in training, had a string of Latinate phrases scrawled in what appeared to be blood on the woods-facing backside of the cabin one morning. The directors replaced the wood siding and then burned the written on boards before anyone was able to decipher what the phrases meant.
Welcome back, my darling deviants. Well, tell me, did you enjoy that twisted tale? Of course you did. I knew you had that air about you, that hunger for the horrific and the macabre. So, did we spook you? If not, then file a complaint with our complaint department detailing all accounts of non-spookiness you found in this video, and we'll get back to you in 2 to 3 millennia. Give or take a business eon or two. However, if you've enjoyed what you've just heard this evening, then make sure you leave a like on this video and annihilate that subscribe button. Such a small act of obedience is exactly what we need to put the food on the table around here. There's only so many days we can have refried kidney and toe jam hash before I'm absolutely sick of it. Spoiler alert, that ship sailed long ago. Now, I must bid you adieu. I've many things to take care of, and this outro is eating into my day off. Run along now. Have no fear, we'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday to bring you another terrible tale. Go forth, my ghastly gang, and stay spooky.